All right, all right. We back here. Come into the show. We got a nice show for you today. So, to start the show every time, right? You see where we at. We back traveling. We back doing our research. Got to show the Amazon for the people. But we're going to watch this video to start off because I want you to always see this. I'm going to always play this at the beginning of each show. And I'm going to play this at the beginning of each show because it's going to show you how your environment influences you. So you'll see the four here, they are going to go to the right. This first one will go to the left. And watch what eventually happens. I'm going to zoom in for you. You see that? All right. And look, it slowly but surely stopped going its own way and start going their way. So what that means is your environment influences you and what you're around. It's a scripture that says, bad morals will corrupt good people. So if you around bad people who got bad morals, they can eventually corrupt you. So we're going to always play that at the beginning just so y'all can see a visual representation, right? So now we're going to go to the verse of the day. And the verse of the day is Proverbs 14:29, a good simple one. And it says, "He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly." Or as you want to switch it up, a patient person shows great understanding, but a quick-tempered one promotes foolishness. And we're going to see some examples later on in the show. But this is not just for opposition, right? This is for ourselves. Everybody gets triggered or may have things that can get them angry. But if we stay in the Word and we can remember this scripture at the times that it does get hard, then I think we can make better adjustments throughout our day-to-day life on not getting angry, right? We probably were never taught ways to handle our anger. So I like that it says he is who is slow to anger. So even when you feel the feeling of anger, the best thing to do is be patient, right? Which is that is the answer to wrath, which we'll get later on in the show as well. So just remember this verse for your day, right? Be slow to anger, because impatient, any translation is telling you, it leads to stupid mistakes, but it's stupid to lose your temper. Any way you look at it, it is better to take a deep breath and remember your mission, your purpose, and your focus. Because as long as you stay present in the moment and don't get caught up in here, you should be able to avoid getting angry. All right? So now, we're going to go to the next one. Yeah, I don't want to do that now. I want to keep it like this. Yeah. So, the next segment that we're going to talk about is just a quick, fact about the Bible, right? So, we want to give you a verse of the day, of course, but now it's about the facts. So, we're going to learn a quick fact here. And I just want to read a little bit about the languages of the Bible. And this is read out of the Bible Historical and Literal Introduction, which is a great book. So we get to see and compare if the Bible is accurate from a historical standpoint. And some things are inaccurate, and we'll be able to go over those things as well and have a discussion. So, in languages, as already mentioned, the Bible was not originally written in English, but in ancient languages that very few people outside of biblical scholars and others with advanced training actually can read. The Jewish scriptures was written in Hebrew with a few small sections in related language, and the New Testament in Greek. This means that whenever you read a passage of the Bible, you are reading in translation. And as anyone knows who's worked extensively in another language, some things is always lost in translation. That is why there are so many different translations of the Bible available today. There are different philosophies of how to translate ancient texts into modern languages, but the reality is that it is never possible to come up with a perfect translation that will convey exactly the original meaning of the text, no matter how hard you try. That is one of the reasons that different people will have different interpretations of the same passage, depending on which translation they are using. But even scholars who read the text in the original languages have wide-ranging differences among themselves over what the texts are actually meaning. That, in no small part, is because of some of the other problems that the Bible presents to its readers and interpreters. So, when we talk about languages, right, I made sure to say that because, and we're going to discuss that later, it is okay if people have different translations or different interpretations of the Bible. That is all right. And within having these different interpretations, we are allowed to still be respectful of each other's interpretations. It's not just one way that this book has to be seen in order for people to be a good Christian, or in order for people to be able to follow the Christian laws or be respected as a true Christian or be able to be loved by God. No, none of that matters, right? So that's why for this, I wanted to point that out, that there's going to be different ways and different viewpoints, and we can still come together with different viewpoints. So now, to add on to that, I am bringing up that there's 4 different ways to interpret the Bible, right? There's 4 different ways you can interpret it. So one is a literal interpretation, asserts that a biblical text is to be interpreted according to the plain meaning conveyed by its grammatically construction in historical text. So this is what a lot of people, when they read the Bible, they interpret the entire Bible from a literal standpoint, and if things don't add up from a literal standpoint, then they may discredit the Bible. But that is one way of interpretation. A second type of biblical interpretation is moral interpretation, which seeks to establish principles by which ethical lessons may be drawn from the various parts of the Bible. So you can look at the Bible and have a moral interpretation from it, right? Joseph, he didn't have sex with the proprietor's wife. So whether or not you literally believe that from that point of view, you can still see it from a moral interpretation. Look at how morally right Joseph was to avoid going behind the man that helped him's back and having intercourse with his wife. So that's another way of interpretation. So then there's another one, right, where it's like allegorical interpretation. And this interprets the biblical narratives as having a second level of reverence beyond those persons, things, and events explicitly mentioned in the text. So a type of this is type of typological, according to which the key figures, main events, and principal institutions of the Hebrew Bible as seen as types of foreshadowings of persons, events, and objects in the New Testaments. So basically, like they were giving you here, according to this theory, interpretations such as that of Noah's Ark that of Noah's Ark as a type of the Christian church have been intended by God from the beginning. And then the fourth one, a mystical interpretation. And this seeks to explain events as they relate to or prefigure the life to come. Such an approach to the Bible is exemplified by the Jewish Kabbalah, which sought to disclose the mystical significance of the numeral values of Hebrew letters and words. So you have 4 different ways that you can look at this Bible and you can learn. So once we learn that we can use all 4 of these to come together, then I do believe we will be able to seek and learn the Bible better as people that isn't just straight biblical scholars or Hebrew scholars. No, everybody can be able to come together with different ideas and still get to a point where we understand and can agree. Even if we disagree, we can agree that there's different interpretations that we have, and that's okay. So next I wanted to go to Jochebed. This is Moses' mom, right? And there's a quick description. And the mother of Moses, influenced history by surrendering what she treasured most to the will of God. When the Egyptians began killing the male babies of Hebrew slaves, she put baby Moses in a waterproof basket and set him adrift on the Nile River. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because we always mention, this is our segment of mentioning, women in the Bible and maybe roles that they had. And I like her role because it did show a great sacrifice. And sometimes, women, they might not want to sacrifice, right? I'm not saying you have to sacrifice in this specific way, but I'm just saying in general, they may not want to sacrifice for the greater good. But her being able to do this, Pharaoh's daughter found and adopted him as her own son. And then God arranged it so Jochebed could be the baby's wet nurse. Even though Moses was raised as an Egyptian, God chose him to lead his people to freedom. So her having faith and letting him go, that was able to actually let God use Moses later down the line for a greater purpose. So sometimes, maybe a woman, she may have emotions or feelings that could get in the way of the greater good. And this is just a lesson that if you keep your faith through whatever you may feel scared of, and you keep God's faith that everything will work out, then the greater good will always supersede the fear that you may have had. So shout out to the women. And now we go to our next segment, right? Which is just a quick put on the full armor of God, right? So Ephesians 6:10 is where you can find this. We always go over this every show, just briefly to let you know. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, shoes of peace, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, sword of spirit, right? So we're going to go over each one real quick. So the belt of truth. You have to be able to tell the truth. God is the truth. When you walk outside, make sure you have your belt of truth on so you can be able to tell the truth, right? And that's also how you can be able to see if somebody else is on the same frequency as you, like the video at the beginning. Because if you're vibrating from a truthful frequency and they're not, you'll pick that up ASAP. The breastplate of righteousness. Are you righteous? All these things will be picked up in vibration. Are you righteous? You have to have your righteousness. When you walk outside, I'm moving righteous because the enemy don't want you to move righteous. And it's easy for your flesh to not move righteous. Shoes of peace. Make sure at all times you got your peace. What makes you peaceful? You got to be able to go in your soul and find a peace spot at any time. So that way you can be able to avoid all negative emotions becoming negative actions. Then you got your shield of faith, right? Shield of faith. You gotta have faith because it's easy to say, God, what's taking so long? Why are you not doing what I say do, when I say do, how I say do? So you gotta make sure to keep your faith. That it might take a little while, just like Joseph, right? It took a while for him to get out of jail and actually, go do the work that God needed him to do. He was in jail for a long time and he thought he was forgotten about, but he never lost his faith. So you gotta keep your faith. So next is the helmet of salvation. And this is important because the enemy wants you to forget that you have the salvation of God. So God always has you, okay? You never have to worry. And that's what he wants you to forget. He wants you to be in despair and forget that the helmet of salvation, it grants you grace, okay? So it's not to say I want to mess up. It's to say that even if I was to mess up, I have the salvation of God. I am okay. And then lastly is the sword of spirit, right? And this is as like a sword. This is what you fight with. So we need to know the word. So like the verse of the day. If I go out today and someone says something negative to me to try to harm me verbally, and I remember the verse of the day is to be slow to anger so I can greatly understand them, then I'll be slow to anger and I'll probably understand that maybe they're having a bad day and I ask them what's wrong with them and maybe they'll tell me and we can get to a better understanding. But if I just react and be quick to anger and say, you know what? Well, I'm going to say something rude back. Well, then that's just now two fools going at it and nobody's a wise man. So remember to have all 7 pieces of armor on when you go out. Okay? Gotta have that on. Gotta remember the 7 pieces. You got to. Alright. Our next segment, which is the 7 deadly sins, which we do this every show as well. Right? So with the 7 deadly sins. So with the 7 deadly sins, we're going to go over this real quick, right? The 7 deadly sins and then what you can do really to like overcome them. So lust. So that's unrestrained sexual craving. So the cure to that is to be pure. Guard your heart. Give yourself a project. Exercise when you're bored. That's the best way to overcome lust. Especially, I can't speak for women, but like if you're a male and you feel like you want to get one off, right? Work out. Because at any moment that you think you want to get one off, you can do push-ups. You can do some diamond push-ups. You can do some sit-ups. You can go run. You can. It will be a battle, right? But you can win that battle. Gluttony. To overindulge, especially by overeating. So you can have gluttony for a lot of things. It's not just eating, but the specific one is eating. Overeating. Don't overeat. If you're somebody that struggles with gluttony, I mean, that's okay. We all have our own different battles. But that is a battle, and you can beat it. Pride. Inflated sense of one's accomplishments, right? Because at the end of the day, 1,000 years from now, nothing really matters. And then it says, be humble. You need God and others. Pray and serve. Because we all do need somebody. Even if we act like we don't need people close, we still need some form of another human being in some way, shape, form, or fashion. It is not possible. Why do you think that when you go to jail, they take your time from you, and when you do really bad in jail, they put you in the hole? Because they know that, all right, if we isolate you, that is one of the most torturing things that we can do. Sloth, laziness, lack of effort. So what is this? Be diligent. Have a schedule. Don't let your life revolve around resting. You don't want to be too comfortable, especially as a man. It's too competitive. So you don't want the sloth demon to come get you. You have to have a plan. Plan your day out hour by hour. If you wake up, right, and you know from 12 to 12, every hour there is something on the schedule that I need to be doing, then it's almost impossible for sloth to get you. I mean, it can still come get you if you don't stick to the schedule, but at least you can be able to identify the problem. Next is wrath, uncontrolled feelings of hatred and anger. So what was the answer? Be patient, moderate your emotions, take deep breaths before reacting. Think about it. Take mental deep breaths, even if you don't do it out loud, because that is the only way to really not get angry. After the first 30 seconds, if you don't get mad and say something back after that first 30 seconds, you will really be able to think clearly. Greed, the excessive desire for material things. So be generous. Donate something you don't like but need to the poor, right? Like a jacket or something. You don't need that jacket. You got 15 jackets. You can donate one. You know, if you see somebody on the side of the street, you got $3, you can give them $1. You know, little things like that. It don't have to be $1 million deposit. And then envy, jealousy towards another's happiness. So be thankful. Thank God every day for what you have and don't have, because that's true. A lot of people, there, for example, a lot of people probably are in a wheelchair, but there's people who walk every day and they're probably mad about something. And there's people in a wheelchair who wish they just could walk. So wherever you think, oh, I don't have this and I don't have this, there's somebody that don't have it. So no matter who you think is above you, you are above somebody. And the fact that you are above somebody, that means that you just need to be grateful for the spot that you are at. All right? I always love this segment, man. Hopefully you guys use your 7 pieces of armor to overcome the 7 deadly sins, right? So then here I want to go to our next segment, which our next segment is I like to show atheists turned into Christians, right? So I don't want to really play like too much because I don't want to get the copyright. But he starts off. You can come Google and look up the video if you want to watch it. But he starts off and he talks about his background and that he grew up in an atheist household. But he's a scientist, but he's an astrophysicist. But he talks about how he went through all different religions and he specifically picked Christianity.
I'm in more than 3 million volumes, and I was given that for the universe. And at that time, there was a debate going on. Is it a hesitating universe? Is it an oscillating universe? A steady state universe? Or a Big Bang universe? But even at that time, the astronomical evidence was heavily favoring Big Bang cosmology. And I knew if it was Big Bang, then the universe had a beginning. If it had a beginning, there must be a cosmic beginner. So as at age 17, I began to search for that cosmic beginner. Really didn't know where to look, but I thought a good place to start would be Immanuel Kant. He's the father of cosmology. So I read his critique of pure reason and some of his other writings, and recognized that things were not consistent with what I knew to be true in astronomy. I looked at René Descartes, a couple of other philosophers, and I said, I think I'm going to have to look at the world's holy books to try to get some understanding. I began with the Hindu Vedas, and I said, oh, this is where the oscillating universe model comes from. Hinduism is founded on the idea of reincarnation, and fundamentally on the principle that the universe reincarnates. But as I read the Vedas, I realized they got the number wrong, because every cycle of reincarnation for the universe, they said, was 4.32 billion years. And I knew the universe was older than that. And I also knew that the universe had way too much entropy for there to be any mechanism to rebound the universe. So I put Hinduism aside. I next looked at Buddhism. As I read the Buddhist commentaries, realized that they had the same cosmology as Hinduism. Then I looked at the Quran, and that there's 3 creation texts in the Quran, but they're not consistent. And I was particularly disturbed that it claimed that the stars were closer to us than the planets. It's like you don't need a telescope to know that that's incorrect. I looked at Zoroastrianism, I looked at several other religions, but finally I picked up a Gideon Bible that was given to me in our public school. And when I went through that Gideon Bible, just looking at the very first page, Genesis 1, I was astounded that it perfectly followed the scientific method. Now, I was not naive. I didn't know where the scientific method came from. Years later, I discovered it had its origins in the Bible's creation text. But as I used that scientific method, I recognized that all the events in Genesis 1 were correctly described in the correct chronological order. The best I found outside of the Bible was the Enuma Elish, which got 2 out of 14 correct. But the Bible got a 10 for 10 score on the order and the description of the creation events, and 4 for 4 on the initial conditions of planet Earth. And so
So I want to stop it there because again, I ain't trying to, but I let y'all get a lot, right? And you can come look at the rest. That was only 2-3 minutes, right? And it's really an hour long. It's only 28 minutes of the hour long video. But I'm gonna be posting. If you don't know who Willie Wise is, I have an interview with Willie Wise. We'll get into that later. So I'll be posting more clips of that interview. You should go check out Willie Wise. He's a great Christian man, good leader to follow. So this is what I found here, and through these comments, I mean, you will see a lot of people that they come on here and they tell their testimonies, right? They tell how, look, I'm a recently converted, and this was 4 months ago. I'm a recently converted and baptized follower of Christ. A lot of people were, atheists, and then they were able to get out of it. I don't want to really read all their testimonies because then I'd be here reading all day, right? But you can come read it when you look at the video. I'm just saying, it's great to see other people, atheists, that speak out and say why they came to Christ. So his story is a great story to look at, right? So here on this next segment, which kind of goes with the last one, we want to kind of look at science and God. So in this article, basically, which, I'll leave the link for it, what they're explaining is there has to be a beginning. There has to be a beginning. Nothing comes from nothingness. So since nothing comes from nothingness, there has to be a beginning, right? So what they're saying at the very beginning of this is you can have evidence here without having to actually be there or be able to have observable proof. So here, as it turns out, you can have evidence for something even if you don't have an experiment for it. So even though they don't have an experiment for, the creation, they're saying there can still be evidence. And the evidence is that there has to be a beginning. There has to be a beginning. You see this picture here? There has to be a beginning. And what they're saying is the beginning had to be light, right? The beginning had to be light, which that coincides with what they say in the Bible. In 2003, Dr. Bo and Galt proved that a beginning is required for any kind of universe with an average expansion rate greater than 0. Therefore, the universe must have had a physical beginning in the finite past. And this is what they came up with in 2003. So I wanted to read this specifically for this piece here, because I will want y'all to read this on your own time too. But now, over time, the universe necessarily moves from disequilibrium to equilibrium. Statistically, it has to. Now, if the universe has always existed, then it would today be at maximum equilibrium. All energy would be evenly spread out throughout the universe. No movement or work in the scientific sense would be possible. The universe, however, is not in such a state. Therefore, it cannot have always existed. And since the universe exists now, but didn't always exist, it must have had a beginning. And there's videos on this too, God and Modern Physics, which I'll go over that on a separate individual video because I'm not trying to get copyrighted. So these pieces of evidence, right, when people say, well, is there any evidence that science is helping support God? This is a piece of support. The universe had to have a beginning. And they even, in this article, debunk multiverses. Because even if there are multi-universes, all of those universes would have still needed to have a beginning, no matter what. So next segment, I don't want to spend too much time on this because this man lost his life. Everybody know about YBC Duel, right? Or if you don't, I mean, I'm not about to play the music or nothing like that, but you know, a young man, you know, he's 25, man, he just died, man. Um, and the reason I'm going over like tragic news stories as a segment is because I am not talking about the person, I'm talking about the sin. Um, I believe the reason he died was because of the deadly sin of pride. I don't know every detail, right? I'm not. That's not the point. The point is, pride was involved. Wrath was involved. And when you mix those two combinations over and over, it can become deadly. Even if he brought pain to people, that's still deadly pain. And you know, you can go look at the videos, his last live, listen to the music. Uh, Go look at the video he did right before he died. This is an example of what can happen when we let the enemy run our life and we live with our demons every day and just accept them full fledged. So RP, you know, to YBC Duel. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it wrong. But RP, man, you know, we gotta remove our pride and go back to God as men. We need God. We need to stay on mission. You know, in his music, I mean, he wasn't talking about God all day. And I mean, if you don't live a godly life, you can't just expect godly outcomes every time. The next segment that we're going to go to is showing that finding real people that's in the Bible. So, Tahakra was a pharaoh of the 25th dynasty. He has real statues in museums, by the way, but he was the pharaoh of the 25th dynasty of Egypt and the king of the kingdom of Cush, present day Sudan, from 690 to 664 BC. He is one of the black pharaohs who ruled over Egypt for nearly a century. His rank is significant in both historical and biblical texts because he was mentioned in the Bible. In the Bible, Tahakra is mentioned as the king of Ethiopia, also known as the land of Cush. He opposed the Neo-Assyrian Empire and was called to aid the kingdom of Judah in his war against Assyrian king. His names appear in hieroglyphics as Tahakra. He was even in the Assassin's Creed video game too. Sadly, you gotta kill him. So this is for the people who want to find literal, you know, interpretations, or who would want to know about real people in the Bible, and we'll find more for you. Here's the first one that we're bringing to you. There is real people in this Bible. So if there's a real pharaoh in this Bible, mentioned in this Bible, then you know, you just never know who else is mentioned and what else we can get from that. And for black people, you know, they probably don't know that Pharaoh is mentioned in the Bible that represents for them, you know, as individuals. So I think that that's pretty cool, you know, for, you know, black people as individuals to see real people were mentioned. You know, you can probably say, oh, well, they didn't have, I can't find Joseph Bones, right? But you can find Tahakra in Assassin's Creed video games. You can find him in real museums, and you can find him in the Bible, and you can find him in real history. So that is real proof. And then the last segment, right? We're on 34 minutes. I'm a little bit behind. I gotta be a little bit better. Sorry. Our last segment is just I wanted to go over, you know, a couple facts about another religion. I always pick a different religion. We'll go over 5. I pick a different religion because it's just to show love, man. It's just to acknowledge that there are other religions out there, and that it's okay, to give them acknowledgement as well. When I studied religions in school, when I took some classes, my professor, I remember saying, you can't say, you're really religious without being able to at least study the other religions as well, to have a good viewpoint and a good understanding of all different cultures. So we're going to start here with the Muslim culture. So the first fact, Islam is the second largest religion in the world, with 1.9 billion people declaring their faith in Muhammad and Allah. The largest religion is Christianity. With today's birth rates, this is fact number 2, with today's birth rates and conversions to the religion, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Fact number 3, Muhammad is known as the father of the religion. I mean, a lot of people know that, but maybe you didn't. Fact number 4, the religion started in 622 AD when Muhammad traveled from Mecca to Medina with hundreds of his followers. The day they left Mecca was the day they started the Islamic calendar. Muhammad and his followers fled to Medina after years of persecution by the people of Mecca. And then number 5, the Quran is the holy text of Islam. It has 6,236 verses. In the early days of Islam, religious leaders had to mesmerize the entire text and recite the Quran to multiple scribes at a time. A scribe is someone that, kind of like what it's saying here, is just collecting history and passing it down. Kind of like cameramans in today's time, how they record everything, they're kind of like the modern day scribes. That's how the Quran was mass produced. This is different from European monks transcribing the Bible, as they hand copied the text word by word. So that's a little fact that if you didn't know, now you know. So in conclusion, right at the end of all the segments, the last segment is for the men. And there's no knock to women, but it's always for the men. And this segment is, me just letting you know, stay on mission, right? Find your purpose. We need purpose first as men. Purpose first. And yes, one of the biggest distractions for us men is women, right? We can get distracted by their beauty. We can get distracted by trying to date them. We can get distracted by trying to please them, by trying to help them, by trying to fix them, by trying to be there for them, by trying to love them. We need God first. We can't do anything with a woman until we have the purpose of God. We need to be focused on our mission, our godly mission, because then our light will shine as the head. And when our light shine as the head, then they can follow. We can bring them out their darkness. All right. I'm trying to tell you, okay, you have to stay focused. Don't let the women distract you, because yes, a lot of you men, I was there. I've struggled. I know. I've been through college. I've been through all of this, right? Where you can get distracted by porn. You can get distracted by women. It isn't really anything else. I mean, we'll have a separate topic on drugs, but this one today is for avoiding the women to stay on mission, because as boys we don't hear this. We don't hear at 8, 9, and 10 avoid having a girlfriend, stay on mission, and then we don't hear that when we get in high school, avoid having a girlfriend and stay on mission. So we will hear that it's cool to go get a woman before we hear go get your business and then get a woman. Go find your purpose and then get a woman. Go stack $3,000 and then get a woman. Go love God and then get a woman. We don't hear that. We hear get a woman first. And a lot of times we can get hurt by a woman, or we can hurt a woman. So for the men that know it, and for the men that's probably struggling, for the men that never heard it, stay on your mission, because you are seen as a leader no matter what. And no offense to women, they're not going to always be seen as a leader. Some of them may have leadership positions, but men don't go to women for leadership. Women will go to men for leadership, and then men will go to a man for leadership. You will always be seen as a leader. And since you are always seen as a leader, you have to make sure that you are getting your energy source from God, because then you will have enough energy to do his work. If you try to go out here and get your energy from other people, including women, then you will not be able to succeed and do the mission. Samson and Delilah, Samson and Delilah. He did not stay focused. He did not stay focused on his mission. God had a mission for him, and he got off his mission to deal with a woman that was not there to help with his mission. You have to stay focused on the mission. And then I believe a woman that see you on mission, she'll help you. Or you could be like Boaz, right? Where even though you see Ruth and you want her, you already have your mission already going. Okay? So that way it'll always be easy to identify the problems. Stay on mission. Stay on mission. Even I have to. I mean, I can look it up right now, but I'm just gonna go on top of the dome. I think it was like 1 Corinthians 3:27. Just know you can go Google it. I'm not lying. It says what, when you get married. Paul was warning us, like, troubles are going to happen when you get married, because when you're single, you can give all your time to God. When you married, you have to give your time to her. So if you get married, you have to think about that. You have to think about the fact that you're going to have to give some of your mission away to deal with her and go through trouble, unless she is here for the mission and she's here to specifically help the mission and she's aligned with the mission. Then that makes the mission just 10 times easier, okay? So my men, stay focused, stay chosen, stay potent, stay golden. You hear me? Stay on mission, right? If you feel like you failing, I mean, here, look, this is a safe space. Come tell me. I'll help you out. I'll talk to you. I care. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, sometimes all it takes is one person. It don't have to be blood, right? As long as somebody care, sometimes that's all that matter, man. Stay focused. Stay on mission. If you don't know what your mission is, pray to God and ask God to reveal a mission to you. Soul search for your mission, for your purpose. If you know what it is, then you're not good either, because that means that they're still going to try to distract you from the mission. So even when you get on purpose, you got to stay focused, because they will distract you from purpose. All right? Until the next time, Daily Bread Show. We'll be back on hopefully tomorrow. That's the plan. I want to do this every day, and if I'm not doing it every day, I mean, I'm finishing up a couple classes too. You know what I'm saying? I'm a scientist, so I got a lot that I do, right? I have a science show that I do as well. I have a show for fatherless child that I do as well. I got a lot, man. Just keep bearing with me, and we'll keep producing better content day in and day out. Getting better each day. Hopefully something in this video helped you, and I pray that your day go well.